Hey, don't forget to check out the Pacific War podcast week by week in association with Kings and Generals. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to omit from the list a few miniseries: Pearl 1978, From Here to Eternity 1979, and The Winds of War from 1983, as they were all made for TV.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
Also, two propaganda films that came out in 1943, the first being Air Force, and the second being John Ford's December the 7th short documentary on Pearl Harbor. Nothing against Mr. Ford, but it just doesn't fit the criteria for this list. Now, this is not some kind of ranked worst to best sort of video here. I'm just going to give you some summarized reasons as to why to watch any of these given films.
Bet you didn't see that one coming, huh?
Each film has a unique take, and maybe one you'll love,
This is something else.
maybe one you'll hate. But from here, you'll know what you're going to watch. So let's begin with the list in chronological order of when each film came out. From Here to Eternity is a 1953 drama romance war film that won 8 out of 12 Academy Award nominations and was a major hit with critics and the public alike. The movie tells the story of an army base in Hawaii and the lead up to the attack on Pearl Harbor, while simultaneously showcasing a set of really horny soldiers chasing after women and having love affairs. My god, just look at the poster scene with Burt Lancaster and Deborah Kerr. Ooh. Essentially, the movie is about a sergeant played by Burt Lancaster who's having an affair with Deborah Kerr, the wife of an incompetent commanding officer.
I don't know what this is, but it's kind of hot.
Then there is the former boxing champ who killed a guy in the ring, played by Montgomery Clift, and he's having an affair with a social club hostess, played by Donna Reed. Last, we got Frank Sinatra playing Angelo Maggio, the violent Italian-American alcoholic and comedic relief. The movie is like a sexual pressure cooker that bursts at the end. Literally, it's sex-fueled, but if you know the source material that was deemed unfilmable at the time, you quickly understand why. Not gonna lie, the movie's a bit of a slow burn, and the actual attack on Pearl Harbor is more of a shadow that hangs over the 177-minute film. But wow, when it finally happens, the chaotic bombing at the end gives Michael Bay a run for his money. My rating? This is a movie for you and your girlfriend, so Netflix and chill this one up. I Bombed Pearl Harbor, or better titled, Hawaii Midway Daikaikusen Taiyo no Arisia, is a 1960 Japanese-made film telling the story of a young Japanese bombardier named Lieutenant Koichi Kitami, stationed aboard the IJN carrier Hiryu. The film follows Koichi from the attack on Pearl Harbor to the devastating loss at the Battle of Midway. The movie also delves deep into issues such as one's faith in their country during times of war and the fear of not meeting the expectations of being a warrior. This was Toho Studios' first color widescreen war film and was made by the same people behind Godzilla, and trust me, you will see the resemblance. The English dub also sucks terribly, just like in the original Godzilla.
Let's go! We must have the formula. We must. Let's go!
Now this one's a really interesting film. It was initially met with critical approval and was widely recognized as the telling of the other side, giving the Japanese perspective of the Pacific War. In retrospect, of course, it all seems to be Tora, Tora, Tora before, well, Tora, Tora, Tora. But if you like miniatures, or classic Godzilla-style movies, boy oh boy is this the one for you. Over 136 ship miniatures were made for this movie alone, all 1/16 to scale and shot in a large water tank. This movie might be the greatest model miniature movie of all time, and that's no exaggeration. The miniature footage was so goddamn good, they reused it for other films, such as Midway 1967 and Admiral Yamamoto 1968. My rating? Watch this if you want the Japanese perspective, but opt out of the dub for the sub. It sucks.
Something funny going on. You better check. Oh, yeah.
In Harm's Way from 1965 stars John fucking Wayne, Kirk Douglas, Henry Fonda, and Mickey from Rocky? This movie is a patriotic naval war film where American men are being men,
Oh, wait, no.
and a harrowing example of sacrifices made by the average GI. The film tries hard to present a rather unromantic and more realistic picture of the US Navy during World War II, complete with a ton of internal squabbling and a lot of pretty horrendous acts.
Stop it. Get some help.
The film follows the attack on Pearl Harbor, the campaigns in New Guinea, Bougainville, and Guadalcanal. There are far too many goddamn subplots to even mention here, but John Wayne plays Rock, of course he does, who left his wife and child to fulfill his duty. This film is really pushing the US Navy and how family and love comes second to it. This is very much a John Wayne driven movie, and sure, there are many subplots, though the message and tone is always going to be John Wayne. John Wayne, by the way, was secretly suffering from lung cancer during the filming and was coughing up blood all over the set. This, however, did not stop him from smoking 6 packs of cigarettes a day. Despite this being a John Wayne film, Kirk Douglas steals the show aplenty, and he does a really complex role as Wayne's chief aide, who runs between being a naval hero and an alcohol-fueled, maniacal rapist, believe it or not. Kirk Douglas even gives some John Wayne-like lines.
But you better be on that plane with Broderick, unless you want to be buried on the island of Gavabutu.
You can't do this.
I am doing it. And take this punk with you.
They filmed the movie using actual US Navy warships in the actual locations and used actual active-duty naval personnel in Oahu as extras. The movie captures the small military details that elude other films like 2001's Pearl Harbor. You get to see civilian chaos ensue when Pearl Harbor is attacked. There are a ton of historical inaccuracies, and a lot of names of places and things have been changed, but most war films do this. And unfortunately, there is very limited combat footage, and not a single Japanese soldier or sailor appears in this film, believe it or not. My rating? If you're looking for a John Wayne war film, there's a lot better out there.
You can't what?
I can't swim.
How old are you?
6.
Tora, 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 the title of the film and the code words announced to the IGN that they had achieved complete surprise at Pearl Harbor. To, the first syllable of Totsugeki, to charge or attack. Ra, the first syllable of Raigeki, meaning torpedo, and Tora, meaning tiger. The animal of the birth year of Mitsuo Fuchida, who led the first wave against Pearl Harbor. This is not a movie based on characters or emotion, but rather on the facts and the event. There is no Kate Beckinsale here, folks. The movie covers the internal and external political actions taken by the United States and Japan, highlighting the decision to go to war. The entire film results in a cataclysm of the attack and the combination of ill-preparedness and bad luck on the part of the Americans. What really makes a war film great? Real planes smashing into things, that's what. The practical effects are still, by today's standards, a marvel to behold. No CGI here, folks. Real explosions that would make Michael Bay cream his pants. Oh, and this is the golden age of cinema, so things went wrong all the time, and people almost died. Take this one scene for example. A runaway P-40 loaded with explosives accidentally smashed into a bunch of planes and sent some extras running for their goddamn lives. You get 45 minutes dedicated to the actual attack on Pearl Harbor. This is a true Pearl Harbor film. Half of this film was shot by an American crew, and the other half by a Japanese crew, as they were really trying to give a historically accurate portrayal of the event. There are historical errors, but overall this film tried not to embellish anything. Take for example this one historical inaccuracy from the film, which I think can be forgiven. At the end of the film, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto says the famous quote, but as any Pacific War buff will tell you, there is no evidence to prove Admiral Yamamoto made this statement or even wrote it down. Despite that, the statement encapsulates Yamamoto's beliefs during the time very well. This film holds up to the holy trifecta of great war films. It's pretty historically accurate, it's entertaining, and it's educational. This film was panned by critics. Roger Ebert, for example, gave it a single star and would later give 2001's Pearl Harbor a higher score.
Hated this movie. That's a statement I made many times while leaving the screening room.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
There are numerous reasons for this. The movie did not seek out an all-star cast like other war movies did of its day. Instead, it opted for realism. It also had subtitles,
that sign can't stop me because I can't read,
which didn't sit well with 1970s America.
Fuck you! I hate all of you!
And of course, it did not glorify the United States, and some would argue it's a quite long and tedious film because of the political discourse. Ironically, after another film came out on this list, Tora grew much more popular. My rating? This movie is for the history buffs.
Pizza time.
Watch this movie. The Final Countdown. What if, in 1980s, the USS Nimitz went back in time to 1941 and faced off against the Kido Butai, which was about to attack Pearl Harbor? Kirk Douglas, Michael Sheen, I am getting wet. We get a movie where the USS Nimitz does not really face off against the Kido Butai. The Final Blue Balls is a science fiction film and probably the most bizarre one on the list. I remember being about 18 years old and finding out about this film and going over to Blockbuster with some friends to rent it. My god, that ages me, doesn't it? We all drank ourselves pretty much under the goddamn table in disappointment. Never gonna forget one of my friends screaming at the end, "Why the hell are they going back to the future? They didn't even do shit." What the fuck? Indeed, the film's premises follows the crew of the USS Nimitz as they find themselves sent back in time to 1941 just before the attack on Pearl Harbor, and they must decide whether they're going to change history by destroying the Japanese fleet or, well, not. And spoiler alert, they don't. The movie starts buttering you up with multiple aircrafts aboard the USS Nimitz, making your mouth water at the idea that these bad boys are going to knock out some Zero fighters. When you hear Kirk Douglas say,
Alert 1, this is Eagle 1. You're cleared to fire. Splash the zeros. I say again, splash the zeros.
"Hoorahs," you immediately pull down your aviators and you finally get to see two F-14 Tomcats lay down the hammer on those poor confused Zero fighters. You think to yourself, oh yeah, that was a good appetizer, and your mouth salivates because you want the main course, the USS Nimitz, to hit that Japanese fleet.
Hot and spicy meat. Yeah, boy.
Then, the ultimate alternate history cockblock storm takes the USS Nimitz back to the future.
You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
God damn you, why did you do this? In essence, The Final Countdown is a slow movie and feels more like stock footage of the USS Nimitz doing regular operations, which in itself is kinda cool. You get to see the real mechanisms of the Nimitz and the crew doing their jobs. And it goes without saying, the filming of the actual USS Nimitz is pretty intriguing, but this movie is not a documentary on the USS Nimitz. It's a quasi-alternate history sci-fi flick, I guess? And if you were wondering if the classic Song by Europe was in this movie, no, that song came out in 1986. My rating? Fast forward to when the two F-14 Tomcats just lay the hammer on those goddamn zeros, and then call it a day. Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor. That's probably why you clicked this video's thumbnail. Now I could of course make a 20 to 40 minute actually
the worst movie ever, and send and sip
rant about the historical inaccuracies of this film, but many more talented film reviewer / history YouTubers have already beaten this dead horse into the ground.
It's an act.
Stop! Stop! He's already dead.
Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor was written by the same guy who wrote Braveheart, and that explains a lot. For those of you who haven't seen it, the synopsis of the film is that the Japanese Empire decided to stage a surprise attack on the love triangle between two best friends failing to do Southern American accents who both love the same woman, who really thought that she was taking a role in a period piece. Oh, and Alec Baldwin shows up for the most hilarious reenactment of the Doolittle raid. Now, I don't want to hit Michael Bay too much, because honestly, the guy's given us some awesome movies like The Rock and Bad Boys 1 and 2. And there is one saving grace to this film, and that is that Michael Bay did what he goddamn does best.
Boom! Michael Bay explosion! Explosion!
I also just assume Michael Bay saw Top Gun and Titanic and immediately creamed himself thinking about the box office possibility of merging the two. Honestly, as much as this movie rightfully deserves the hate it gets, I mean, goddamn, it pretty much insulted both US and Japanese veterans, to be honest. But you can't say the attack scene did not get your heart pumping. I mean, come on, you Americans sitting in the audience might have even thought about enlisting right then and there. And a lot of the scenes are absolutely gorgeous. Bizarre, but gorgeous. At the very least, the film delivers a pretty impressive attack scene, full of hilarious inaccuracies, mind you, but visually pretty stunning, not to mention the sound is great. But stating all that, I still prefer Tora. My rating, if you don't give a shit about history, get some popcorn, put this bad boy in.
Shut the fuck up! Know your fucking place, trash!
Notable mention, Midway. Not really a Pearl Harbor movie, but hear me out in this one. A lot of the movies I mentioned in this list play footsie around Pearl Harbor, and some even added in the Doolittle Raid, Guadalcanal, or the Battle of Midway in their synopsis. Well, 2020's Midway decided to place Pearl Harbor at the beginning, the Doolittle Raid in the middle, and finish it all off with the Battle of Midway. And that narrative is really good for the movie's sake. Gets you angry at the beginning, followed by a minor jab in the middle, and then a knockout punch almost at the end. Midway tried really hard to be historically accurate, though there are definitely some mistakes, or better called artistic changes. You also can't help but feel that the crew who made Midway might have seen another movie, and were literally walking on eggshells not to fall victim to its mistakes. The critics went to town on the screenplay for this one, but I would argue the movie was trying to cater more towards the event than to drive in emotion. And that certainly seems to be the crux of it, because many people didn't like this movie as it felt flat compared to other war films. There's like a lack of emotion. Despite all of that, the action is stunning in this one, and I appreciate the fact that they went deep into the decoding aspect of the story. My rating, if you feel a bit hungry, why settle at just Pearl Harbor for a meal, and get yourself Midway on top of it.
2001's Pearl Harbor.